So just to tell you a little bit about our webinar this afternoon and who we are, I'm Kirsty Porter and I work as an Education and Engagement Officer here at Surrey Wildlife Trust. I also work part-time as a primary school teacher and I've been here for about 12 years. I've got two of my team members with me this afternoon who I'm going to be introducing. I don't know if you can come off mute and just say hello. So we've got Louise Shorthose, who is our Outdoor Learning Manager. And I've also got Emma Rothwell, who leads up our Wilder Schools team. And she's going to be talking to one of our wonderful teachers from one of our Wilder schools, who I'll let you introduce, Emma, when we get to that part of our presentation this afternoon. Okay, I think we've got anyone else I need to let in?
I can carry on letting them in, Kirsty, while you're...
Okay, that would be brilliant. Thank you. If you monitor that. I think, what sort of numbers are we up to, Emma? Should we get started?
Yeah, I think we've got 27 in, so we've got, yes, we've still got a few people just coming in, but I'll admit them, Kirsty, while you're getting going, don't worry.
Okay, so I've just done my little intro. So as you know, this afternoon is all about our Wilder Schools programme, and I'm going to hand you over in just a moment to Louise Shorthose, who's going to talk to you in a bit more detail about what that involves. And as I said, if you've got any questions for Louise, please pop them in the chat and we'll be talking to her at the end. So if you're ready, Louise, I shall hand over to you.
That's great. Thanks, Kirsty, and welcome everyone. It's so nice to see so many joining us for this webinar. So I'm Louise, I'm the Outdoor Learning Manager at Surrey Wildlife Trust, and I've been with the Trust for about 17 years now. And about 3 years ago, we came out of being furloughed and locked down, and we completely changed what we do at Surrey Wildlife Trust in terms of how we work with schools. And we started piloting a study, piloting a programme really with different schools, which we then called our Wilder Schools programme. So I'm just going to share my screen and show you what we're doing. Just bear with me one moment. Wrong place. Right, I'm just going to zoom up through this because I've got to the wrong place. Okay, can you all see that? Emma, you can hear Kirsty? Yeah.
Yeah, we're all good.
Fab. So the Wilder Schools programme, we piloted it from about 2020. The team went out and they just knocked on the doors of schools and they started doing things, whether it was education outreach sessions or creating habitats in school grounds. We went out weekly, we went to some as one-off visits. And we just tested things to come up with a programme that we think works well now and meets the aims of the Trust and also achieves lots for schools. So the aims of a Wilder school, hopefully, by becoming a Wilder school, will increase the well-being and learning in students. Kirsty did a webinar as part of the Nature Network, which you can go back and see the link. She did loads and loads of research, all the research that's out there to prove that learning outside the classroom really does help children's well-being and it really changes their attitude to learning. So we did all the research and realised we've got to really get this out into schools. Now, one of Surrey's aims is to really connect up nature in Surrey. We manage about 3% of the county, but we know as a wildlife trust that 30% of nature needs to be restored in order to end the biodiversity crisis, and that's a minimum. So we can't do that on our own. We really need to get the people of Surrey involved. So through this project, we hope to start to reach communities through schools and reach really diverse communities that way. And that way, through taking action for nature, we can connect up nature not only in school grounds, but throughout communities and link up our nature reserves. And the other part of it is we want children to spend more time outside because of all the research. And we found that teachers don't always have the confidence to take learning outside. So we want to use our experience that we've had for the last 50 years of teaching outside, not me personally, but as a trust, we've been doing it for over 50 years. So to encourage teachers to take the learning outside. So how do we do this? I've got a few bars in front of this. So this is our logic model that we came up with after our pilot study. We've got a recruitment stage, and then it's a 3-year programme. Now, year 1 of the programme is the most intensive in terms of our input, and then it kind of peters off over the next 2 years in terms of us coming out into the school. And it's split into obviously 3 terms, and roughly we come out once a month to spend time with a particular year group. We also spend time with teachers, training them, and then we're working in the school grounds and working with the wider community. So roughly we're only asking for 1 day a month of working with a year group that's been identified by the school. So if I go out of this. And my computer's decided to go to sleep. Hang on. Here we go. Right. Well, here's a map of the schools that we're working with this year. So the bright mortarboards on this show where we're working at the moment. We're only working with 11 schools. And the faded ones are the schools we worked with throughout the pilot study, in which we still have some input with. And you'll see from the key that we work with primary, secondary and special needs schools. But I would say that the project that we've come up with works best with Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3. But we do work with teachers across all key stages to encourage them to get outside and deliver more learning. And I would say it looks like, going back to this, it does look like there's clusters, because when we started the study, we were really focusing on what we call our biodiversity opportunity areas, the key ones that the Trust as a whole were working on. And so we focused on schools around those areas. So that was the North Downs in Surrey, and it was the Thames Basin Heaths, and a kind of wetland area over in the east of the county. But since then, we've opened up where we work, and all schools are welcome to apply to become a wilder school in September. But clustering them has helped us to achieve an impact on a community scale, because we work not only with the students, but with the wider families. And so we want to have that community scale impact. And if you look at the blue lines on the map, those are bee lines that BugLife have identified as corridors for insects, because insects are massively in decline. And so it's really great if we can work with communities along these bee lines, because the projects are really, really helping insects to recover. So if we look at the first year of the programme is working with this year group, the school identifies, to take an action in the school grounds. And it could be a whole variety of actions, but it's all led by the students. So we go out and we survey the school grounds, see what's there after we've delivered an assembly to talk about the plight of nature and how everyone can help. So they survey their school grounds and then create a vision of what they would like to see there. And we get all of their visions, put it together, and through discussions with the children and the school leadership team, we come up with a plan. And then the students will work up that plan, raise awareness either to the groundsmen, the families, the local community, and we will start fundraising for anything we need to buy. And then we will actually, from January to March, we get to action and we implement the project. So it's a great time to put in ponds and to put in meadows. And then in term 3, we work on monitoring and see how successful the project has been. And we also work on delivering more of the curriculum outside to encourage the teachers. So lots of outcomes from this project for students, because they become empowered and happier and healthier. Because they've done all that helping nature, it builds their resilience for the future. And at the same time, there are so many curriculum links, and I'll just show you the sorts of things we've been doing. At each stage of the project, we can link it to plant science or to adaptations to habitat or survey techniques, or we might do some well-being. Or further down, when we've put in meadows, we've linked it to the maths curriculum by working out areas and volumes of seeds they need to buy. And also, when they've written persuasive letters, it's linked to the literacy curriculum. So many links. And so we aim to show the teacher that we're working with that by doing a project like this, the children are really engaged, but also learning the key things they need to do at this stage of their school careers. So that's great for the students. Part of the programme is also coming up to our educational nature reserve at Narewood. We've always delivered sessions here. It's something that schools have always come along to do. But it says here you get priority booking because the tutors now are out in schools. We have very few sessions available to book with our tutors actually at Narewood, but you as a project school would get priority booking. And that way we want to show children a really wild and natural environment and inspire them to what they can create and show them how they survey, monitor and protect creatures in their natural environment. So the key bit of learning when they come up to Narewood. So lots of outcomes with our logic model. We worked out what the short-term impacts would be for students in the year group we work with. And as we go through the project, once the teachers are continuing this, what the longer term impacts would be. And things like improved confidence, because we're seeing students get out there and do things they wouldn't normally do, a pride in their local environment, increased knowledge in what's out there. And one of the things we're doing is working with the Royal Holloway University. We've taken one of their ideas where before we start any work in the school grounds, the students draw pictures of what they think of when they think of the school grounds. And we record the number of features that they've drawn. And then at the end of the study, they draw it again and we look at the change in the number of features. So we quantify it and we can use that as a measure of how their knowledge has changed at the school grounds alongside anecdotal evidence. And also we ask teachers to keep an eye on a few students to look at how their attitudes to learning are changing. And we use all of this to evaluate the programme. And I would say, although this looks fairly fixed, what we're doing, what we have learned is to be as flexible as possible because every school is different, every year group is going to be different, every school grounds is different. So there's a huge amount of flexibility and we've got very skilled tutors who can just flex with it and deliver what's needed. So what sort of biodiversity projects are we doing? Well, they're not massive worrying projects. They are quite simple things because we wanted students to be able to do it and we wanted them to take the message home and tell their parents that they could do it back in their gardens. So it could be something simple like a no-mow area where they identify an area that doesn't need cutting. We might plant it up with some plug plants to increase the biodiversity. We've put in lots of hedgerows. The picture in the middle is a secondary school that was suffering from very waterlogged sports pitches. And by having these hedgerows put in, that was a very long line of hedgerow. We hope it is going to take some of the moisture away and create a better habitat on site. And ponds, we're not talking about big ponds, we're talking about things that you can dig by hand, either a small bucket pond or probably maximum 3 meters by 3 meters, all very manageable sorts of habitats. And we've learned how to create meadows. We get the children to strip the turf back and we seed it with a native seed mix. We've used DT sessions to create bee homes, and lots of schools have got old raised beds that need a bit of a revamp, and we've revamped them as pollinator pit stops full of nectar-rich plants. And in this one here, you can see they've also put some basin ponds in to encourage insects to create a little life cycle area for them there. So lots of different things, but very simple ideas that could be adopted elsewhere. So we'll talk about the wider community. So we want to have this biodiversity impact in school, but we want this to spread out into the neighbourhood. So we want the wider community to become wilder. So we start off with a whole school assembly, which is a real call to action. We want everybody helping with these actions for nature. We send out regular comms in school e-news and with ideas of actions they can be taking at the moment. So for appropriate to the time of year. And then the idea is that they will record those actions. So the green and white form on the side is linked to our geographical information system. It's called ARC Survey 123. It will go out as a homework where they just fill in their names, their postcode, what class they're in, because you can turn it into a class competition or a house competition, and then they just say what action they've taken. So it can just be a tick box, but if it's somebody with a big house with big grounds and they've done a big action for nature, you're able to plot it as a polygon, and then it gets stored onto our geographical information system as a big area of habitat that's been changed, which contributes to this target we have of getting 30% of land restored for nature by 2030. And the picture on the left is some teachers we worked with at an open day for new families to show them how they could take action for nature. We've been to Christmas fairs to sell bird feeders that the students made to raise money for the project they'd identified. We've been to careers days to show how there's lots of opportunities for students in the green sector moving forward, and mapping all of our actions. So that's how we're reaching the wider community. And just to show you, we had this come through the other day. January's action was to feed the birds, make bird feeders, and join in the RSPB's Big Garden Bird Watch. And one of the schools we're working at took it upon themselves, the year group we're working with, to create posters and put them around the school to join in the challenge, to raise awareness with the rest of the school. And then a parent at another school sent this lovely message to say how much they enjoyed making the bird feeders and how much they liked getting this regular comms from us in the school newsletters, and really looking forward to February's Action for Nature. So we feel that that side of it really works well. So here you can see we've thought about the outcomes for biodiversity. There are short-term impacts, medium-term, and then longer-term impacts. But overall, our big aim is that nature is more connected in Surrey through these actions. Okay, and then so reaching the whole school, we're working with teachers across all key stages. So although we don't work with the students in Key Stage 1 directly, they're still welcome to come up for a one-day session at Wood. And also we work with their teachers to give them ideas for outdoor learning. So here, picture on the right shows Lizzie teaching at an inset day. And we also have lots of shadowing of our outdoor learning, where teachers might join one of the tutors in one of the sessions in the school grounds for inspiration. We might go along to staff meetings, because we know it's hard to pin teachers down for an inset training day, but they regularly have staff meetings, so we've been to those. And also we run accredited training. We do Forest School Level 2 and Level 3. And we have another accredited course for called Leader of Outdoor Learning, which is all about taking the curriculum outside. So the outcome of that is teachers become much more confident to deliver learning outside. There you go. Those are the outcomes we thought about. And overall, lots of outdoor learning going on, lots of children connected to nature. And we hope that the schools we work with over the 3 years, that they will also become hubs where they can pass on and share their learning with schools nearby. And also schools are often part of academies, and we can share the training across the academy. So lots of benefits there. We record everything we do on a program called Story Maps, which is linked to a geographical information system. So if you are a school that sign up with us, then you will have access to the story map where you can see what we're doing, and I'll show you one in just a moment. And also we use it to inspire other schools that can't join our program. They'll see lots of ideas of how we've been delivering this program with other schools. If you go to our website now, you'll see that all of the pilot study at the schools we worked with about 15 schools overall to come up with this program. So that's on our website now. And I think when Kirsty sends out the recording for this, she's going to send you the links if you haven't already found them on the website. Right, I'll see if this works. I'll take you to one of our story maps. This is Barnsbury School in Woking in Surrey. might take a while to load up. But we found this a really great tool just for recording all the lovely stories that happen, because I can talk about the project in general, but the real impacts and the beauty of this project is on the small scale. It's the stories of the children that come up and show you what they've done for nature back at home. It's the great things are in the details. So let's have a little look. So we start off with a description of the school and where they are, and then a timeline of the different visits we do every month. And this map shows you all the different activities we've been doing. So I'll just scroll down to some of the days. So let's go to day 1. Ross looked after this school. He did a whole school assembly. And then those drawings are, do you remember I said about Royal Holloway University's method of recording the change in their knowledge in biodiversity? These were the things that they knew about their school grounds on day 1 of the project. And obviously we haven't got to the end of the project yet, so we'll quantify those for the whole year group. Then we did a bit of a bio-blitz of the school grounds, and they came up with their visions for nature. So, for example, I'll just show you here. That was the playground to start with, and things in the school ground that they'd found. And all the colour was what they wanted to add. So that's one of the students' visions for nature. And they all, see if I can just move this box out of the way. So I just scroll across. This was all of a year group's visions for nature, some of which have been loaded onto here. I think this one's my favourite. Yeah, represents my life. So lots of crazy ideas, but some really good ideas came through. Hang on a sec, just move that. Scroll down again. And so what Ross did was he decided he was going to use a little bit of everybody's vision for nature, and they had an area that they decided to work on, and he's put together a vision that they are working on. See, we've got log piles and flower beds full of pollinator-friendly plants, no mow areas, improving the pond that had overgrown on the site, putting in a bug hotel, and then he's mapped that to show what the plan is, so that they can come up with a fundraising plan. And that will just be, they've all come up with their own ideas for fundraising. It might be something like a cake sale or a mufti day or a sponsored event to raise money to buy any seed and material that's needed. And then it goes on to talk about staff meetings we've been to, where we've got all the staff outside and listen to what they see as their barriers are for getting outside the classroom. And we're coming up with a plan now. And for this school in particular, it is risk assessments that stop them going out. So we're going to do a session on risk assessments for them, because they have got some wet woodland in their school grounds and it is very wet at times, but there are some wonderful things to go and explore in that area. So it's all about managing risk and weighing it up against the benefits of getting outside. And all the time when we're out delivering part of the project, part of the day where we're working with the students, we might put in something like some wellbeing or natural art sessions, just so that everybody starts to see the outside world as a place that is really good for them and a place where they want to be. Right, so I think that gives you an idea. We'll send you links to this, and you can have a good look in your own time. I shall try and get back to my PowerPoint. Okay.
Just to say, Lou, I have popped the link in the chat already, so everybody should have it, and we'll send it out at the end too.
Fantastic, thanks, Kirsty. It's just going on. You might want to know, if you're not a wildlife trust, but you are a school that's watching today, you might want to know how you can apply. Well, applications are open now until the end of March for joining us in September 2023. And all we need to hear from you is an expression of interest with a photograph of your school grounds, so we've got an idea of what we'll be working with, the year group you would like us to work with, so we can plan resources for that. and just a paragraph stating why you would like to join the programme. And in particular, if there's something in your school improvement plan that we can help to address through outdoor learning, we'd like to hear that. And we need a commitment to the project from the senior leadership team, because we found it so much better if the head teacher and the groundsman and everyone's on board, and we can access the children for those monthly sessions and run the staff training a couple of times a year. Then the programme works so much better. But all along, you'll be supported by our Nature Network, which this webinar is part of. So we invite you all to sign up anyway to the Nature Network, because there'll be lots of free resources for you throughout the project. And even if you're not successful, then we do have time in our calendar to go out and do one-day visits where we can help get you started. And then the Nature Network should support you as well. And for any wildlife trusts watching that Nature Network, you are welcome to invite your schools to join that, because the curriculum is the same across England for sure. And hopefully there'll be resources that will benefit your schools too. All right, so that I think, oh, one more thing to show you. How much does it cost? Well, the main part of the project is free. It's a mission of the Wildlife Trust to enhance biodiversity and connect up nature. So we don't charge for our time going out to the schools. And that's worth about, in terms of staff time, it's worth about £4,500 to the school just in year one. But we do ask that schools pay for things that they would have normally paid for. So we've always provided inset training. And so we still charge for that. And that is part of the programme. So it's £500 for a half day, £800 for a full day. Visits to Narwood we still charge for, because that's something schools have always paid for, and our prices will be in the next financial year going up to £13 per person. And then the accredited training courses, there's a cost to those, and the Leader of Outdoor Learning and Level 2 Forest Schools is around £400, and Level 3 Forest Schools is £1,000. So, but you do have priority booking onto these training courses. So if you think, gosh, that's it, we can't do it because we can't afford those, then do still apply, because we do put out applications for grants and corporates to help fund this programme. And for schools that are struggling, corporates in particular are very keen to help fund them. So don't be put off by that. Okay, and I think I can stop sharing and go back and hand over back to Kirsty.
Oh, Louise, well, if you're not inspired to sign up to be a Wilder School, if you haven't already by that, then I'm not sure what will get you inspired. That was amazing. Thank you, Louise. As I said, I've already popped the link to the story map, so you can have a look at all the other work that we've been doing, and also to our Nature Network if you haven't signed up for that. Louise, there were a few questions that popped up in the chat. Are you happy to answer those now if we go through them? Or, yeah, so a couple of things I noticed. A question came up was, does it need to be just one year group, or could it be more? And have you tried the project across different year groups?
Yes, we've done it with lots of year groups, years 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, special needs groups. Yeah, we're willing, I think we've got a maximum of 90 children that we can work with at a school. So if, for example, Emma, who you're going to hear from in a moment, is working with one school, which is just one form entry. So she goes to deliver the project with her particular year group, but then in the afternoon, she might work with a younger age group to do some outdoor learning with them, just so the teachers are shadow teaching as well and being inspired by the session. And in a secondary school, we have some really big secondary schools. So we have worked with year 9 where we've tried to do like the hedge planting and projects with every member of year 9, which is 300 students, and they're all coming up to Narwood, and they are massive groups, but we manage it in smaller groups. So yes, we've tried everything, and we're willing to try everything. But with secondary schools, we find what often works better is to work with an eco club, so that the students that are really interested get to develop their skills, but we still do the assembly and the engagement with the wider school.
you hope there's going to be that trickle down effect from the children that are engaged with the Eco Club as well, spreading that message out, and that's what it's all about. So yeah, great degree of flexibility to answer that question. Another question we had as well is how many staff can attend an inset day?
Well, we have up to 20 on our inset days. We can do more than that if we split it into a morning and afternoon session, but then we'd probably charge for a full day inset. Part of the programme is to deliver a half day inset, but yeah, we can work with up to 40 teachers in a day.
Okay, and the last question was around key stages as well. That was it just key stage 2, or were we flexible to work with key stage 1?
We will work with Key Stage 1. We are trialling it at the moment with a Key Stage 1 group. We're not sure how well it will go in terms of the Action for Nature, but we're going to give it a try. At the moment, we think it works best with Key Stage 2 and up. But at the same time, we're delivering the outdoor learning for the younger age groups. The younger age groups come up to Nawood, and the training, like forest school training, really helps the really young children get connected to nature as well.
Okay, thank you, Lou. There was a question that came through from Danny as well around kit, and whether we sort of recommend a kit that you can buy to get yourself going with outdoor learning, and around funding for this, because they found that a really big barrier. So that's something that we will be posting some things on our Nature Network around where you can find funding. We do bring certain bits of equipment out with us when we come to do sessions with schools, and you can borrow things. So that is definitely a barrier that lots of schools are finding, and we will endeavour to find some solutions to that. Is there anything else I've forgotten to say around that, Lou?
We've always had kit boxes that are available for schools to borrow for pond dipping and mini beast hunting and plant surveys, and we've got bat detectors they can borrow or hire. So that's always been available, but our most popular item at the moment are spades. They're always
all that hedge planting.
We think they need to have their own Outlook calendar because they're always out and about. And I just saw a question come in, have we done this with secondary schools? Yep, we're working with 2 secondary schools this year, and we worked with 2 secondary schools last year, and it works really well with them as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Louise. I think you can have a well-deserved rest, and I am going to pass you over to Emma Rothwell, our Wilder Schools team leader. Over to you, Emma.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see so many people joining us today. So my role within the Wilder Schools programme is I manage the team, but I also have 2. This year I'm working with 2 schools. Last year I had 3. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4. Last year was all a bit of a blur because we sort of, as Lou said at the beginning, we sort of came out of COVID with lots of very different thoughts and ideas, and we sort of went out and we trialled everything. We did a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of the other, and then have come up with a much more focused programme this year. So I'm joined today by Rona, who she will hopefully unmute herself in a moment. Rona is the lead teacher at North Downs my lead teacher at North Downs Primary School. She's an outdoor education teacher and general forest school, does loads and loads of wonderful things at the school. So I work liaise with Rona, and we are currently working with 2 Year 4 classes at North Downs School. So we're only a third of the way through the year. So I thought it would be nice we've primed Rona with a few questions that we thought might be suitable for her to be able to talk to you about. But if you do have any other questions, please do pop them in the chat. But yes, so Rona, thank you for joining us today, right, giving up your time to be able to come and share your thoughts with everybody here today. So just thinking about any changes that have happened that you've noticed so far happening. I know we've only done a term.
Yeah, there has been an improvement in the attitude, particularly one class. The teacher was quite reluctant, as you know, but now, complete reversal of that, and is so enthusiastic when you come in and when the children go out. We've had, the expectation in our school is that with everyone should take them out for at least once a week for outdoor learning. And so this has really helped that particular year group be inspired to go out and actually they're now doing extra things following that and following you coming in and following doing things. Students particularly, there's been a real impact positively on them. They're particularly challenging year group when in class for talking and not listening, but actually once they come outside, and Emma, you'll agree, won't you, they're listening outside, and how they are behaving outside and is completely different, and that has had an impact within the classroom as well. I can't say enough good things really about what they're doing and how they have been, and the fact that they've just responded really well to this whole programme and coming up with ideas.
I think, Rona, for me, one of the big things we started sort of talking about was, and how I've seen a big change is that transition from the indoor classroom to the outdoor classroom. And it's all, I think that's sometimes when we have done insets, that's been one of the big barriers with teachers is, it's so much of an effort to get all the clothes on and to go outside, and if it's raining and da-da-da-da. But that's one of the things that we've talked about quite a lot with them, and that transition from going out indoors to outdoors is been a massive improvement. And they get ready and they put their coats on the back of the chairs, and and just how they listen so much better now, which has been, and that's only been, we've had 4 sessions together. Yeah. And I think that's been a big one.
And their knowledge of what's in their school grounds has really improved, and how much more aware they are of what's about. So a new plant comes up and they'll notice, or they'll see, like I was saying with bird watching, we met with the other week, and today I was down at the woods with this particular leader group, and they could hear a woodpecker and they were straight at it, trying to find it, trying to, bird watch, trying to look for it, and standing quietly, and that, they can't fault it. Really.
Yeah, that was quite we had a was it last week? I think it all blends into one now. We
2 weeks ago,
2 weeks ago we had a session just in preparation for the children taking part in the big garden bird watch, because everything we're doing with the children, it's then that they're doing in the school grounds, but then they're able to take these actions home to do at home as well. So it's spreading those links through the community, so creating all of those little dots on our map to create that green corridor and connecting at nature. So we had a quite a fun session. We had the binoculars out, and I think one of our main challenges was just practicing standing still. And with the binoculars, and every now and again you just see this little student dashing across the grass with, where are you going? You're supposed to be standing still. So, I saw a bird over there. I'm gonna go see it.
So they just respond really well to being outside, and they remember everything. They remember things from week to week, like the language that come out, the scientific words that you've been sharing with them. You come back in, you ask them that like the month later, and they still remember, and they remember everything, and the experiences that they're having, it's just been such an impact on them, and the teachers as well, because the teachers are coming up. One of the teachers from year 4 today, I was talking to her today, and she was saying, we went out this morning, we hadn't planned to, we went out and we did life drawing outside, and just that inspiration, just to find that little thing that you can go out and do, that they're just getting so inspired by it, really. So it's a sort of positive impact on everybody, as far as I can see so far.
Even in the pouring rain, because we had the joy of having the LOTC came to see what we were doing in our wilder schools, and we spent the morning, the assessor came with Lou, and we had our lovely session planned, and out we went, and it was one of those days where potentially, had we not had the LOTC man there with us, we might have changed our plan around and done something different. But we thought, no, he's here, we're gonna carry on. It was absolutely lashing down with rain, but fortunately at North Down School they've got a lovely canopy area on their outdoor learning space, but it was so loud with the rain pouring on there down that we just ended up, we stopped what we were trying to do, recording things. And what was lovely is we just had a mindful moment underneath there. We're listening to the rain, and that's, I think, part of it as well is working with teachers and saying, you know what, you can't just be flexible. The whole point of doing outdoor learning in your school grounds is that if you do need to change something, or you can, it's not like you've booked in to come for a visit, for example, up to Nailwood, you've paid for it. If it's really torrential, or there's a gale blowing, you can change your plan around and go out a different time. But yes, no, just to say that the LOTC gentleman was very pleased, loves the programme. So yeah, so we managed to get through that as well, Rona, didn't we? So
We did.
hey, is there any challenges that you would say have potentially come up with enhancing the school grounds for nature? Has there been any challenges you think with, because fortunately your head is totally on board, isn't she?
It is, you've got to get your senior leadership team on board for these sorts of things to work. There's no doubt about it. It's got to come from the top. So I'm lucky, I've got the support from the top, really, and she's very enthusiastic about it all as well. So challenges, I haven't really come across any yet as such with that. It's more been changing mindsets of staff. We're sort of saying to them, well, you could try doing that outside rather than inside. That sort of thing is more of a challenge, I find. Engaging, sometimes, but we've managed to engage someone who was quite reluctant, definitely, and there's been such a big improvement, and I've even seen them out on other times and other occasions now doing things. So all I can say is everything at school so far with us has been positive. It's really hard, I haven't had really many challenges of what to do. I know we've got the project coming up where we're creating the meadow and things, and I know we'll have to look at which particular area and areas and just make sure we're not going to upset anyone. And again, I suppose the challenge will be with the grounds people, making sure they know which areas we're growing and things like that. But you coming in just means there's been teachers' time. Again, nothing really negative. I was chatting to teachers before this session today and saying, what have you come across, and they've been positive about the fact that, you coming in means that they're getting CPD because they're sort of with you, watching what you're doing, the same with me, and then can take out and take on what you've done and do it in a different way. Because obviously we're a 3-sited primary school, so some of the things I'm doing with Emma, I'm then going to the other sites and thinking, well, I could have that as a no-mo zone, and thinking about my other bases and other things as well. So I'm learning from you just as much as the other teachers are, to how I can change things within the other bases as well. But we've got really not really any challenges really at the moment. But as I said, that's because my SLT are fully on board with everything that we're doing, and I can imagine if they're not, that could then be a battle for people. But you've got to get them on side to get it going, really.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing. That's something that we have found, that we found in other schools last year when we were trialing different programs, is that we really need to work on that. And that's, Kirsty's been doing loads of research this year, gathering all that data, because there's so much information about how beneficial outdoor learning is. I mean, we're all sitting here today, we all know that, we all understand that, but to get that message across to head teachers, but working through with the school improvement plan and how we can all help. I think that's been a big thing. So, sort of in summary, Rona, my final question: would you recommend this programme to others?
Absolutely, it covers so many areas of the curriculum that we've found. Even in one session, we cover science, geography, things, and just the well-being side of it for teachers and the children. Completely agree with that. Completely important. I talk to the children quite a lot, and the other things that I do, where I questionnaire them and talk to them, and they just say they feel they've got the space to think when they're outside. They feel less pressured on them. They say it's fun. They feel calmer when they're outside. So that for me is a massive big thing following COVID and everything like that. The sort of the well-being just the curriculum coverage as well. You know, I'd definitely recommend it to everyone, really. You know, can't fault, as I say, no negatives really at all. That I can,
well, that's wonderful, Rona. Thank you so much
no
for
worries.
your feedback. I think
That's all right.
it really does. I think potentially for any schools who are thinking about it, that's having you here today is really helpful, because it's you're you know, you're on the ground, you're there doing all of these things. But it is, I mean, I love coming into your school, get such a lovely reception from the teachers and the children. I come back to the office every single time with a little something that's been made for me, or, you know, like your lovely head teacher found a lovely book and bought me a book, and it's just having that link and that connection.
For me, the teachers can see the benefits having had you in, as well as seeing the benefits on their children, you know, as well. And
fabulous, brilliant. Well, I think we'll give Rona 10 out of 10 for that. Thank you, Rona.
No worries, no problem. All right.
I don't know if we've got any questions.
Yeah, we have actually. I was just going to say, it just brings to mind that kind of cheesy phrase of teamwork makes the dream work. Amazing teamwork going on there, and actually that is such a big thing for making these projects successful. And one of the questions that came in, Rona, was what has led your SLT to be supportive of outdoor learning, and what were their motivations?
I think the benefits, they could see the benefits when talking to them. When I first started this role, I'm sort of 4 or 5 years into being outdoor learning lead at our school, and it was the head teacher that came to me and said, would you be interested in this role? So it came from her straight away on that score. But I think just all the evidence that's out there for the benefits and schools, and, you know, I think for me was visiting other schools that were doing it as well, and then saying to them, look, I've seen this is really good, this is really working, talking to them and meetings.
Yeah, sharing those case studies and success stories.
Yeah, because we now have it on, we have a non-negotiables list for school, and it's one of the things that's on the non-negotiables within the school that the SLT have put on. It is everyone must take them out at least once a week to do something outdoor learning wise, or learning outside the classroom wise a week. So, you know. And
if you are listening as a school and your SLT are kind of on the fence, then please point them towards the previous webinar that we did, which was around the benefits, and that is on the Nature Network page, and there was a link to that earlier, so you can find that on there if you need something to persuade them with. Thank you, that was amazing. So after all those amazing kind of success stories and questions from Rona, we thought it'd be really nice to share with you one of our success stories of when the children leave the settings that they're in now, where they might go afterwards. So I have a little video to share with you, which might just point you in those directions of where kind of these students might be thinking about afterwards. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully pop it on here, and I shall introduce you to Ness.
So I'm talking today to Ness Beale, who is this year's placement student for Surrey Wildlife Trust. So what was it that led you to think about taking a placement with us?
So it started off when I came here for the Youth Summit with my old school that I went to, and that was my first trip to Norwood, and that was where I learned how to take action for nature, and just kind of understand what Surrey Wildlife Trust do for schools, and that was a really fun day. And then I came back a year and a half ago whilst I was at university collecting some data for a research project that I was doing, and again part of that was just exposure to what the trust do, the work they do with schools, teaching us like just little bits about how to better the natural world. So yeah, and then that kind of just kept Surrey Wildlife Trust in my head, I guess, to where I am now.
So having been to the Youth Summit, what kinds of actions did you go and do afterwards?
So I went back to school after coming to the Youth Summit, and basically after learning that lots of different actions and doing things for nature collectively can make a big difference. So a big thing for me was going back, and I was in sixth form at the time, and just doing an assembly for the younger years and sharing the things I'd learnt here, and hopefully just hoping everybody would do a little bit for nature.
And did you feel there was a way that you could actually get them to do that and to try and mobilise those ideas that they happened?
Definitely, yeah. So just learning that they're just really simple actions like planting certain wildflowers in your garden, leaving places wilder for nature to thrive, things like that, and just sharing that with the school, and even allowing the school grounds to do that itself.
Did you say you actually set up your eco council as well?
Yeah, definitely. So that was also a big thing for the summit, just kind of understanding that a lot of young people are passionate about nature, and just kind of being the one to go back to school and be like, hey, let's do this, with a few other of my eco friends. But yeah, that was thanks to coming here, I guess, and meeting people who can show you the ropes of.
And now you've got the placement. Has that kind of changed your thoughts about where your career development might go from here?
Definitely, yeah. So my first exposure here at Wood, to then coming back at uni to collect data for a research assignment we had, it definitely exposed me to the world of, I guess, environmental and ecological management and protecting nature, that I realised was close to what I believed in, and then also realising that there are jobs out there that you can do that in. So yeah, for me that was the reason why I decided to do my placement year here.
Thank you.
Stop sharing my screen. So there was Ness putting in her own lovely words what it's meant for her to get that connection with nature, to start realising that people can make a difference, and opened her eyes to the field of green careers beyond school. And I think that's something that as us as educators are thinking about, what happens when those children leave us and where they might go on to. So being part of the Wilder Schools programme might lead them into that too. Thank you. Right, I'm just going to see whether we have any other questions. Emma, have you been keeping an eye on the chat? I was so busy listening to Ness's video, I forgot to look.
Yes, I've answered. Liz had a question, and is this just in the spring, summer? No, it's all year round. Depending on the time of year, we sort of do more bits outside at the beginning of the year, and then for the last 2 sessions that I've been in with Rona, we've had some indoor time, so we've been doing lots and lots of brainstorming on what sort of fundraising ideas, and some of those fundraising ideas were quite wild and wacky, but you know, we brainstormed all of those, and then it's down to Rona and the teachers to decide what they're going to do. But even so, when it is during the winter months, when we're not necessarily outside for the whole morning, we'll do some work in the classroom, and then we will always go out and do an activity outside, but not necessarily for the whole session. And whether that's one of our lovely activities we did during the winter months as well. We had a lovely Andy Goldsworthy art session where they collected lots of different natural resources. We did a little bit of Wim Hof warming up when we went outside and we were doing our bird watching. We got a little bit cold, so we were all out there doing a little bit of, you know, moving around and expelling our breath. So, you know, lots. So we do go out all year round. So yeah, we go with it. I think there was another question, Lou, that I spotted up. I'm not sure we've answered, about if we have more than 11 to 15 schools. So we said that you worked with that number. If we have more people applying, how do we whittle them down?
Yeah, well, we haven't had that problem so far, because the first year we had to knock on schools' doors and force our way in, and then I think we got our programme together a little bit late in the school year, so we didn't have too many schools, but I guess we would have some criteria based on the Trust's other objectives. So if it's near one of the other projects, like we've got a hedgerow heritage project going on, if it's near there, we'd probably engage a school that is close to that project site. If it links in with a corporate who wants to fund some schools in their area, we would probably prioritise a school there. If it's close to a beeline, we might focus on there. We also have developed an urban biodiversity opportunity area. So if it's in a very urban area, in a nature deprived area, we might prioritise a school there. And also if it links into our Next Door Nature project, which a lot of the wildlife trusts are working on, where we can then take the school work out into the community, then we would focus on that. So it's worth applying wherever you are, and we will try and help you in some way. There's always the Nature Network. We will always come out and try and give you at least a visit and help you in some way, get you started. And then there's always next year as well, and we will prioritise you for next year.
There's been a few questions around funding as well, and that is going to be a barrier for some schools.
Yeah, so the only bits we charge for are things that schools have always paid for. So if those become an issue, there are ways that we've been working with schools this year where we haven't necessarily had to do an inset. We've built it into the staff meetings and identified barriers and overcome them through attending staff meetings and shadow teaching with the schools. We would really love the children to see now. They're the sorts of things corporates will often fund. So I'm constantly writing funding bids. And it does seem to be a really popular project that ticks lots of boxes for corporates. So we've put a lot out there. There's a lot of interest coming back from corporates. So I think we would find a way. If schools can afford to pay, we would ask them to pay. But if they're really struggling, then that's when we would go to these funding pots and help them.
Thank you, Louise. Well, thank you very much to everybody and for your interesting questions. Hopefully you've answered them. I think a few people we've said we'll email back with a couple of answers too. Please, if you haven't signed up, as we said, for the network, then do so. A couple of things just to make you aware of, which are the kinds of things that go into our regular newsletters that go out to our Nature Network members. First of all, there's the Surrey County Council have got a Greener Schools Award that's running this year. So you can apply for the award up until the 8th of March, and there are some really good prizes. There's some different sections. There's a creative media section and an innovation award as well. And for Key Stage 1 all the way up to Key Stage 4, they're split into 2 groups. And alongside that, they are running their Eco Summit this year. Again, there's 2 dates for that, the 14th and the 23rd of March. And those are for schools that are thinking of applying for their green flag or getting their next green flag. So have a look out on their website. I'll put all of this into the follow-up email that comes out too. We will be also providing some videos. So in the next couple of months, we're going to be doing one around planting up wildflower meadows and getting on board with the No Mow May initiative, and that will be available, and we will post that on the Nature Network too. And obviously, as we've mentioned, the previous webinars that we have are all posted on there, so you can have a look back at those too. And I think that's about it. Oh, there was one thing I was going to say about the No Mow May one. Obviously, it's really important. Don't forget the small stuff. Trying to attract insects into your school grounds and invertebrates is really, really key. And we will be signposting you to all sorts of different information and different organisations that can help you with that. So we really hope that you found this afternoon informative. And you've enjoyed it too. I'm conscious that we only have 1 minute left. We thought we weren't going to fill the hour, and we have. So thank you. Anything else I need to remember before we sign off, Louise or Emma?
No, thanks, Kirsty. Thank you all. And if you want to get in touch, if you're a wildlife trust, if you want to get in touch, we're really happy to share all our planning and information with you. And schools, please apply.
Yeah, and I'd just like to finish off saying an extra special thank you to Rona for giving up your time this afternoon to come and share your experience with us, because you know it's right from the horse's mouth. Not that you're a horse, Rona, obviously, but you know right from the horse's mouth. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. Really appreciated.
And thank you everyone for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.